everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here, and it is my absolute pleasure to present you today the newest trophy in my collection, the acquisition of the 1946 Mr. Pacific Coast trophy that was won by Steve Reeves so many years ago. Here it is. I have to admit it is a beautiful piece with the athlete, which I assume is a Greek Olympian, at the top of the trophy. You can see the competition is clearly stated here, Mr. Pacific Coast of 1946. And we've got a wonderful eagle here. What there is supposed to be here on the side are two more athletes. And down here, of course, is Steve Reeves' name. So as we can see, there is a Steve Reeves' name. I've purchased this trophy, of course, from George Helmer, and the trophy will become part of the Physical Culture Museum exhibition here in Switzerland. Here is the eagle on top of the world, representing the conquering, of course, of this achievement by Steve Reeves, who of course won this competition. This was his first major competition. Again, the Mr. Pacific Coast of 1946. And again, the beautiful athlete at the top, the Olympian holding the wreath, is a really wonderful way of topping off this marvelous trophy. So as you can see, the trophy from the 1946 Mr. Pacific Coast, standing here I'm sitting very proudly next to it, and I want to just tell you a little bit about a story of the time before Steve Reeves won the actual competition, and then actually show you the report from the Strength and Health magazine. Of course, Steve's autobiography and classic book, Building the Classic Physique, this is the first edition in hardcover, displays the actually talks about the story. I'm going to read that story to you now. It's at the end of chapter 6, actually. So, according to Steve Reeves, he contracted malaria in 1945, and after 2 months, actually by September 1945, he was sent to Japan, after which he found a foundry and asked the person there to design and construct a 210 pound barbell set, for which he paid $100 for, and he kept those weights under his bed. He made himself a makeshift bench, and he trained like that for about 8 months until he was released in September of 1946, the following year. And on chapter 7, the story continues on to his win of the 1946 Mr. Pacific Coast. Home once again, I renewed my training with gusto at Ed Yarrick's gym, using the classic physique program I developed, and within a few weeks I was back to 205 pounds. In December of 1946, I entered and won the Mr. Pacific Coast contest in Portland, Oregon. So that's the story Steve recounts it in his book, Building a Classic Physique. Now, if we now go to I've got a collection, of course, you may have already know, a collection of bound Strength and Health magazine starting from about 1936, going all the way up to the 1970s. This is the 1947 edition, and on the April issue, remember the competition was held in December of 1946, we have a photo of Steve Reeves with the trophy, shown right there. And you can see close up, the trophy itself contains 3 athletes, and unfortunately 2 are missing in this trophy, I need to ask again, George, why that is. However, that is clearly the trophy of the Mr. Pacific Coast 1946 competition. And let's just read the excerpt from this particular article. Among the many physique contests that have been held throughout the nation last year, the Mr. Pacific Coast event ranks as one of the most important. This sectional contest took place in Portland, Oregon, as Steve said clearly in his biography, on December the 21st of 1946. In this trio of impressively developed athletes, we see the three finalists as they appeared at the conclusion of the contest. The bodybuilder at the left is Mario Gregor from Vancouver, Canada, representing the Western Sports Centre. Mario placed third. The winner, Herculean Steve Reeves, is standing in the center. Steve is from Oakland, California, and trains at Ed Yarrick's studio there. He will be a serious contender for the 1947 Mr. America title, which of course he won famously. Standing at the right is Don Malucci from Portland, Oregon as well. Don, who placed second, represented the studio by Williams and Cahill. So, as you can see, these are the stories, the original stories of Steve Reeves winning the Mr. Pacific Coast of 1946. So I do need to add a couple of more important comments, as after I recorded this video, I contacted George Helmer and found out two very important things. Firstly is the story of how the trophy was damaged by Steve's wife after an argument. Steve's second wife, who was called Aline Charchevich, was the princess and daughter of a royal family in Poland. And well, George told me the most hilarious story in an email. I asked him about two small broken statues at the base of the trophy, and he answered. He wrote, "Hi Carlos, yes, the two small statues were broken off by Steve's wife when she got mad with him. You can see it in the photo below. This is the way I received it and did not want to change it from the photo with Steve." So as you can tell, I was quite surprised and found the story to be quite funny. My wife immediately told me that the trophy would be worth even more now that we knew the story. George did offer to replace the two small statuettes, and I will consider it, of course. However, what I also realized was that the top of the trophy which George sent was the wrong top. If we see the photo of Reeves with the 1946 Mr. Pacific Coast Trophy, which is right in the center, and zoom in, we can see that the top of the trophy actually is an angel with wings spread open, holding either a plate or a wreath overhead. So it appears that when George was disassembling the trophies, he accidentally sent the wrong top and got them all muddled up. See, both trophies of the Mr. Pacific Coast of 1946 and 1947 have tops that can be screwed off. So, it was just an honest mistake by George. Either way, I will be receiving the Mr. Pacific Coast Trophy of 1947 at the end of this year from George, which was Steve Reeves' second trophy. I'll leave the video there. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation of the 1946 Mr. Pacific Coast Trophy, won by Steve Reeves, sent to me by George Helmer. With this in mind, I just would like to state that this is the first of several trophies that will be sent over the coming years and months. By the end of the year, I should be receiving Steve Reeves' second trophy, which is the 1947 Mr. Western America, which was also called the Mr. Pacific Coast. And later on, I am acquiring the very famous 1947 Mr. America trophy as well, won by Steve Reeves, in what is growing to be probably the biggest collection of Steve Reeves trophies on the planet. Of course, this will all be part of the exhibition of the Physical Culture Museum exhibition here in Switzerland. I do hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so, leave me your comments, and please click the bell button to be notified for future videos and let me know what you think. That's it from me. This is the Golden Era Bookworm, very proudly saying bye for now. Now, if you're interested in learning more about how Steve Reeves developed his ribcage, I've got a wonderful new e-booklet up on my website, www.goldenerabookworm.com, which explains a very rare and unpublished Reeves ribcage and full body routine. Of course, my website has many other booklets on Steve Reeves' methods, specifically how I develop my waist, how I develop my broad shoulders, and another ebook on how he developed his wonderful diamond-shaped calves. All available on my website, www.goldenerabookworm.com. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Vince Gironda's approach to bodybuilding, his principles, and all these tips of wisdom that he has, I mean, there's so much stuff that probably hasn't been proven by science, and it will take science to prove or disprove Vince. But to be honest, these 3 books, I believe, which I call the Classic Physique Bundle, are the best books that Vince ever came out with. And they, of course, are the Wild Physique, the Master Series, and the Pro Series. Have a look at it this way. The Wild Physique, I believe, is like the ABCs of Vince Gironda's principles to bodybuilding. He teaches you the exercises and his principles. But how do you put them together? Well, the Master Series is a 14-month program of using all of these principles, all of the diets that Vince came out with, all of the exercises. And believe me, it's a brilliant, brilliant program. Many people have used it. I know personally a lot of bodybuilders that have actually used it and made fantastic results with it. And of course, the Pro Series was a book that he came out with later on, specially targeted for getting into competition. It's just these 3 books, as I call it, the Classic Physique Bundle, Vince's best work, and available, of course, at www.goldenerabookworm.com. Now, the Pro Series of Bodybuilding, which was targeted for professional bodybuilders, contains 6 programs, each of which go for 2 months each. So it's a whole year, again, in preparation for competition. Online training is now available, including my new program, Novice to Classic, a program geared towards beginners and novices looking at developing a classic physique, as well as Classic Cut, geared at those who wish to lose weight and gain muscle fast. Details available at www.goldenerabookworm.com. Need a bodybuilding poster for your gym or office? Then check out Ironman Magazine archive.smugmug.com for the highest quality posters on the planet. Scroll through the galleries of all the legends, including greats such as Arnold, Frank Zane, Sergio Oliva, Serge Nubret, Tom Platz, and Larry Scott, and much, much more, and select your poster now. Your favorite YouTube channel, please visit teespring.com/stores/goldenerabookworm for merchandise, including t-shirts, hoodies, face masks, phone cases, and much, much more. Once again, at teespring.com/stores/goldenerabookworm. Become a patron at www.patreon.com/goldenerabookworm for hard to find books, scans of rare photos, and articles on the golden era of bodybuilding. To take full advantage of my collaborations, use code GEB20 with nspnutrition.com and vincegironda.com, as well as code bookworm12 at osl.com for a discount at checkout.